Welcome to Open Your Reality, ladies and gentlemen. In this video, I want to recount David Icke's unique experience of taking ayahuasca in the jungles of Brazil. I think it's important to talk about, as this was a life-altering experience for David and opened up a path of knowledge that could potentially benefit us all. I first came across this information back in the year 2004, when I was working in a corporate cubicle for a stint. And using a BitTorrent program called LimeWire, if you guys remember that, I downloaded part of an interview with David, which he had with talk show host Jeff Rentz. And I've recently looked for it on the net a few times, and I couldn't find it. However, I used to listen to that interview over and over again, soaking in David recounting his meeting with the source. Fortunately, David has talked about it in his books at least several times, even writing a book on it called Infinite Love is the Only Truth. Everything else is illusion. He also wrote about it in a book called, which I'm rereading now, Human Race Get Off Your Knees, The Lion Sleeps No More. Yeah, quite a title. Love him or hate him though, unless you think he's a shill, you would have to admit that David has sacrificed an awful lot for spreading his message. I'm talking about his career, his reputation, and even his health, all to expose the truth about the hidden hand that controls our world. Now, since he began his journey, David has remained a polarizing figure in his 3-decade quest to discover the truth about this reality. And I think he may have just found it on his ayahuasca trip back in January of 2003. At one point in the trip, David lay on the floor of a small, dark wooden house in a jungle of Brazil. He had just sipped on a brew of ayahuasca put together by a man named Zoe. And Zoe was the only other person in the dark room in which David was lying. The effects of the brew took quickly, and David felt nauseous and agitated. He then screamed out years of pent-up frustration, going back to earlier days of his mass ridicule. And as he closed his eyes, he went into an altered state, seeing bright, swirling colors and images. And upon opening his eyes, David was back in 3D reality, but a slightly altered form of it. As time wore on, the experience became more powerful, and David had the impulse to close his eyes. It was then that it finally happened. And I'll let David recount in his own words what occurred next. Quote, I lay on my back looking into the pitch darkness, and my arms suddenly stretched out at about 45 degrees, much as they did when I was in the standing position on the mound in Peru. Out of my mouth, and in a very different voice to David Icke, came the words, slowly and powerfully, I am love. I then began to repeat, I am everything, and everything is me. I am infinite possibility. Strange things happened in the room after that. David saw bright lights, and the music that was being played turned off and turned back on. He felt energy pouring through his heart chakra, forming an arc to his head, and he then began to speak fluently in an altered state. And it wasn't like David was having thoughts and would articulate them. No, instead the words just came out of his mouth, which is the first he knew of them. David was told by a voice, quote, all that exists is one infinite consciousness. This was referred to by the voice as the infinite, oneness, and the one. The voice told David that humanity had become detached from an awareness of the one in its manipulated, illusory reality. That we viewed everything in terms of division and duality, instead of seeing that all is connected, that all is the same infinite oneness. David learned from the voice that the 5-sense world we experience daily is a time loop that goes around and around, basically repeating the same sequence in theme and detail. What we call the future eventually becomes the past, and spins around to repeat the present over and over again. This time loop is going around and around in a cycle that has become a prison for our consciousness. It traps us with its seductions and illusions. The voice said this time loop operates on non-physical levels, which has also lost contact with infinite oneness. The voice referred to this as the Matrix. David had to do ayahuasca in a Brazilian rainforest to receive answers to life's most pressing questions. But fortunately, you don't have to. Thankfully, there's Keen, today's sponsor. Keen connects you with talented tarot readers and astrologers, and I used Keen to receive answers to some difficult questions I was facing, such as, will this YouTube channel be successful long-term? Should I start a videography business? Will I and Ruby be together for the long term? I asked these questions to 3 different psychic readers who gave me answers that allowed me to feel assured of my direction going forward. They said I would be successful, but that it wouldn't be easy in the near term. Based on their advice, I am plunging full steam into all endeavors and feel confident doing so. And if you want to get a reading on Keen like I did, it's super easy to start. All you have to do is create an account and you'll be able to choose from the hundreds of readers who are online right now. Keen has talented psychics and you can choose from many categories including life path and advice, tarot card readings, astrology readings, and many more. These readers each have unique specialties designed to provide a deeper understanding of your situation. Want to learn more about your love life? Is he or she cheating on you? Do they love you? Keen has a reader ready to provide clarity and insight. You can choose whichever reader best suits your needs and you'll be able to connect via phone call or text chat. And as a new customer on Keen, you can try your first 10 minutes for only $1.99, which is up to $99 in savings. Go to trykeen.com/openyourreality today or click the link in my description to save big on your first reading. Thank you. After listening to and reading about David Icke's talk with the voice, which represented the infinite oneness, I have a few takeaways I'd like to share with you because I think we can all learn from it. And I love these types of stories, though they're rare, where an individual truly communes with the divine. David said when the voice spoke to him, it was loud and clear and sounded like a female, but represented the unity of all things. The voice said, "David, we are going to take you where you come from so you can remember who you are." And with that being said, David's consciousness was transported to a place of indescribable bliss. There was no time and there was no place. Everything just was. David had no body and felt as if he was everything all at once. There were no divisions, no us and them, just infinite oneness, yet David still retained a sense of being an individual, with his own thoughts and his own point of observation within the whole. David said, "This is what we all are. Awareness, looking at infinity from our own perspective." In this realm, David sensed that this energy around him was not vibrating as it does in the realm of form and things, basically where we are. Instead, David experienced the place he was in as either stillness or the waves of an ocean moving in slow motion and perfect harmony. "This is the infinite David," the voice said. "This is where you come from, and this is where you shall return." The following words then began to repeat in David's mind. "Infinite love is the only truth. Everything else is illusion." The voice said this is all we really needed to know because everything comes from that. And love in the sense the voice said it means total implicit unconditional love. Not the kind of love we associate here on earth like with sexual attraction. The voice told David that humanity had become manipulated to identify itself with illusory personalities and not with the infinite it truly is. I know that. I can see it everywhere. And this has trapped the masses in illusions of a disconnected state. Frustration, anger, fear, guilt, and pain. They're only illusions, fragments of a disconnected mind, said the voice. Do you think the infinite ever gets ill? Of course not, said the voice. A diseased state is simply an illusion of the conditioned mind. David was also told the universe was nothing more than a holographic projection, akin to looking up at the night sky projected on the ceiling of a planetarium. The only difference is that with our universe, the projections appear to be three-dimensional, because it's a hologram. Now even the Earth is a hologram as well. But then the voice told David the following information. If it vibrates, it is illusion. The infinite does not vibrate. It is the harmony and oneness of all. Only illusion vibrates. That which is created by the imagination and delusion of mind. This illusion we all find ourselves in will continue to persist until someone comes along and changes the belief or the program, what we think of as collective reality. That is how records are broken and miracles happen, my friend.
Czy wiesz, że istnieje książka, która pozwala ci zamanifestować wszystko, co chcesz? Ta książka znajdowała się
In fact, what we call miracles are just the overcoming of a programmed mind. It's when the mind breaks its limitations that it creates new experiences. Those still in the program, though, think this is impossible, which, to their state of awareness, it is. As a result, they dub anything beyond their sense of limitation a miracle, when it is nothing of the kind. The voice told David that we all fall for the illusion because we are all programmed to believe it exists. In fact, the world is not out there, it's in here, in our minds. Scientific experiments have even shown that we do not see up to 50% and more of what comes through the eye. Amazingly, it is filtered out by the temporal lobes of the brain on basis of our conditioned belief before it gets to the visual cortex. It is our brain that sees, not the eyes. In fact, there is a great little poem by William Blake that perfectly encapsulates this, and it goes something like this. This life's 5 windows of the soul distort the heavens from pole to pole and make us believe a lie when we see with, not through the eye. I wrote this quote down almost 30 years ago. These life's 5 windows are our 5 senses. I wrote down yet another Blake quote, which I'll throw in here for free, 2 for the price of 1. If the doors of perception were cleansed, everything would appear as it is, infinite. Reading those quotes, it seems quite evident that Ike and Blake were on the same page. Our brains are actually conditioning us to what to see. And again, perhaps this is why the government, world corporations, and the so-called Illuminati want so badly to control what we see in the media and how we should think. They're literally building the reality they want us to experience, and this is all done so they can remain in control, powerful, and continue dominion over us. That's why movies like They Live, The Matrix, and The Truman Show are so important. They're basically giving us the truth right in front of our eyes. We think we're going about our lives in a state of consciousness when in fact we are experiencing every bit as much as those we experience in sleep. It's just a different dream. The voice told David we only eat, sleep, age, and die because we are conditioned to believe it has to be that way. We've all heard stories of yogis who have been able to transcend those things. I've talked about it on my channel countless times. Some yogis like Babaji have been known to need no food, no nourishment, and no sleep. They are even ageless and have discovered a way to subvert death. In fact, Babaji is known as the ageless guru and is said to have been alive since the time of Christ. Is it because these great beings have figured out what Ike and the voice are saying here are correct? I would assume so. And if they did, then perhaps they're able to break the conditioning and see beyond the doors of perception to the infinite. Can it be that easy? I don't think it is. I think it requires years of training the mind to break the conditioning that we've all fallen prey to. And that's why these great saints and yogis and adepts spend years and even decades training their minds in monasteries. Nothing comes easy in this hologram. You have to put in the work if you want to see past the illusion. And hard work is not something most people are willing to put in, which is why the masses remain so deluded. In fact, most have no idea what's really going on behind the scenes. It was Henry Ford who said, "Thinking is the hardest work there is," which is the reason why so few engage in it. If I could, I'd like to throw in meditation alongside that quote. For many, thinking and meditation are truly hard work. Most people never spend more than a few hours in their life training their mind in the areas to see past the illusion. The bottom line is that all forms of division and duality in our world are illusions. In true infinite consciousness, there is no separation. And this is really why I made this video, to show you that where we all come from is nothing more than infinite love and oneness. And I understand we all need to live our lives here in this holographic illusion. We have daily, if not hourly, challenges to overcome in this three-dimensional TikTok world, all the time. And all of it is at heart illusion, because we are not here anyway, and life is all a dream. It's as Henry David Thoreau said, "Our truest life is when we are in our dreams awake." I know I certainly feel that way. So yes, we have to be in and of the world, but we can start to create a more idealized version of it if we live more in oneness and less in separation. Instead of seeing people as different, celebrate those differences and accept people for who they are. Accept your situation for what it is and seek to change it if you want to. Realize that we're all part of the infinite and life is not as serious as we make it out to be. I know easier said than done. But changing your thinking just a bit will start to create a shift, because ultimately, we are all creators of our own reality, whether we believe it or not. Thank you for watching. Sign up to my free email list, and I'll see you all in the next video. Namaste.